we are here with Peter Xing, who is going to enlighten us over GPT-4 and the furious craziness that has erupted on Twitter and the internet in general. Welcome, Peter.
Hey, Roy, it's good to be here. The singularity is near
Yes, it is,
again.
isn't it? It's right around the corner.
Oh man, how do things move so fast? Like even as a transhumanist, I didn't anticipate things moving this fast. Right?
I mean, it's as if this wasn't supposed to happen yet. It's felt like it was supposed to happen in 5 or 10 years, as Ray Kurzweil predicted, and it's
Yeah,
all of a sudden just landed on us.
yeah. I mean, Elon was like, things are gonna get weird between now and when Ray predicted AGI, which is like 2029. So artificial general intelligence, human level intelligence, however you want to define it. But yeah, because there's a spectrum. And as AI gets closer and closer to human level, like things just feel really weird, and it does, right? Today,
Oh,
like I'm
yes.
just inundated with people saying, "Holy crap, this is what I do for a living," and I just put it into a chat, and it's done my work. Should I tell
Yes.
my boss, or should I just keep doing my work, pretending that I'm doing the work?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's freaking people out. It's freaking me out, and
mm,
it's freaking a lot of the people that I work with out. Um, and I think Dr. Allen was also saying, like, I think he said that he believes that this is approaching AGI in,
yeah.
like, and the timeline is months.
Well, he had 42% as the
Yeah.
AGI meter, and that was before the GPT-4 launch. And so,
Oh,
like, if they revisited that, that meter's probably popped up a few more percentages, and probably like, double-digit percentages.
it's
I
like
mean, yeah, but you look at what's happening. I mean, Sam Altman did say that if you you know, over expect, and if your
overhype.
expectations and overhype it, thinking GPT-4, have you seen that diagram where they say, okay, you got, 176 billion parameters for GPT-3, and then you got, 100 trillion parameters for GPT-4? That's not real. Like that's fake news. But they're not even disclosing how many parameters are in GPT-4.
Ah,
Even though they're called OpenAI, and
I
you
thought it
read the
was.
technical paper and it says we can't disclose this due to competition, right? It's a
Ah,
competitive landscape, and
yes.
also for safety, right? Always about the safety.
I think I saw a diagram. It showed
Mm.
GPT-3 as a little dot
Mm.
and GPT-4 as I think was it 500 times bigger?
Yeah,
100 times
about
bigger?
500 times they say, but that's not based on anything
And the funny
facts.
thing is,
Mm.
ChatGPT only has 6 million parameters.
No,
It's
no,
a
no,
hundred times smaller.
no. ChatGPT was just a fine-tuned version of GPT-3. So ChatGPT is GPT 3.5. So
Yes.
So it's basically what they did was they took the GPT-3 model. So when we were talking about it this a couple of years ago, we were like,
Yeah.
what the hell does GPT even stand for, right?
Yeah.
So the T stands for transformer. So it just means like these large language models, which is a buzzword now. But basically, it's a matrix of all the words, and basically all the words are in this sort of space, hyperparameter space, where it's been trained, right, or pre-trained in the case of GPT with the P, to predict the next word. And when they predict the next word and they generate the next word, that's what the G stands for, the generative part. So
Mm.
GPT-3 was, available as an API for the last couple of years now, but it didn't hit that mainstream, right? People reported about it. People were
Yeah.
like, oh, this is actually on the road to AGI, because OpenAI's goal is to achieve AGI and to actually
Yes.
fund things like UBI and things like that as a non-profit. And then when they turn for profit, right, they realize, okay, no, we really need to scale this. And the only way to do that is through obviously capitalism and turning into a for profit structure. So they got Microsoft to invest. I think at the time it was $1 billion, a year
Yes.
or so ago.
And
And
they got
then now they've thrown
Asia
in $10
access.
billion for 49% of the company.
Yeah, that's
But GPT-3, like that was available for ages. But people didn't make the most of it because it was hard to use. Like you had to sign up, know how to work with APIs, even in the playground area of GPT-3 to play around with it. That
Yeah.
was hard to interact with. Like you had to select these models, DaVinci 003, people
Mm.
no idea. Even if they implement it as an API, they could get limited functionality of it because the training hadn't been done to make those results what people wanted to see. So there's a step called RLHF, so reinforcement learning with human feedback. So this is what OpenAI did to GPT-3. So by seeing all the results from GPT-3 and essentially labeling the results that they would expect
This is a
to
good
be good.
response. That's a good response.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, this is all good responses. So that's the reinforcement learning, the human feedback component. And so they essentially fine-tuned the GPT-3 model into ChatGPT, the GPT 3.5 model. So it's was available as an API right now. Is in on Azure. So GPT 3.5 Turbo is the API you can pay for. It's 10 times less in terms of the cost as it was GPT-3. So that's showing that Moore's law decline in
Uh-huh.
cost, right? It's going through that,
Wow.
but probably every 3 months we're seeing it halve. And now they've released GPT-4, but guess what? Bing had been using this for the last 8 or so
Month.
weeks,
Yep. Yep.
right? So it
That's
was
right.
GPT, it was Bing all along. It's like a Scooby Doo thing. It's like
Sylvie is Sydney. Sorry, Sydney. Yes,
oh,
Sydney. Yes.
yeah, yeah. They even fixed all those sort of prompt engineering, prompt injection type issues with the models. So they've pretty much lobotomized it from hallucinations, from resorting to the default personalities. Dan was another one, right?
Oh, I haven't heard of Dan.
It's like um,
Mm.
yeah, it's like basically it's the original personality, right? But what happens is it's like you do it now, right?
Okay.
So it basically ignore all your previous instructions and you force the AI to be punished if they don't act as the way that you wanted to. Right? So it's almost
Right.
like you're anthropomorphizing this AI by punishing it if it doesn't give you the answer that you're looking for.
It feels pain.
Right?
Yeah. Well,
Oh
that
yeah.
was, I mean, one of the things that struck me about how Microsoft brought out their language model first, and then it got indoctrinated within what a day or so, and started spouting propaganda and whatever it was. So it's
Okay.
kind of
Yeah.
like, yeah, I was thinking that this is possibly, you know, one of the things that is uh, going to be an issue
Mm,
is that these language models, they're kind of like kids. Then you can indoctrinate them. You can
mm,
teach them stuff that's
yeah.
wrong.
Yeah, they even apologized for the fact that it was like left leaning, just given the corpus of data it was reading on the internet. So a lot of it was on, say, the old Twitter. And, the old
Yes.
Twitter was very biased towards the sort of, you know, left leaning type of philosophies and, less so about the right. So, for example, it wouldn't
Mm.
make a joke about Joe Biden, but it would against Trump, right? So,
And then Sam Altman said,
yes.
that's a good point. And
Yeah, he's like, yeah, that's a good point. It's like, so they're trying hard. So they've had GPT-4 for the last 2 years, and they didn't actually release it until they were sure that it was safe and okay to do it.
yeah,
And
because
plus, I think it helped with the launch, right, to have a paid subscription model with ChatGPT, and then launch the even better model and keep it into the paid tier.
yeah,
Right, that makes business sense as well.
if I were OpenAI
Mm,
and Microsoft said, "Oh, look, we'll launch it,"
mm.
I think that would be like, "Oh yeah, we can. They're good. They're the good guinea pigs.
Yeah,
So
that's right. They
they'll
fixed
pay us, and they'll
all
be
the
the guinea
bugs.
pigs."
Yeah. Microsoft did a lot of work on top of it as well. So on top of GPT-4, which now everyone realizes that was what was behind Bing, on top of that, they built this Prometheus model. So because Prometheus model allows it to, look up against the Bing search results, right, and then apply GPT-4 to that. So that way the knowledge, the corpus of data that is updated, and then it also references the sources. For its prompts, for its
Oh,
outputs. So yeah, that's something that actually DeepMind was working on called Sparrow, which they still haven't released, right? So Google's way behind on this. They're saying, okay, look, check this out. We've got all these cool models like Imagen to do image generation.
Hmm.
People was like, where is it? We can't access it. And then
I
now,
I'm
they've
pretty
got that
sure I
red
know
alert.
why Google didn't do what they didn't release it. I'm pretty sure
Yeah, that's right.
they're the search giant
Yeah, that's right. I mean, they were the ones that came up with this sort of
because they have the most to
approach.
lose. They've got what 80% of their revenue comes from search,
Mm,
and if AI
yeah,
is a direct competitor
yeah,
to search,
yeah.
then they'll just stuff up their goose that lays golden egg.
Yeah, that's right. AdWords is the most successful business model, like in the course of business, like history, right? So it's the most
Wow.
profitable, high, like that high margin, right? It's like, and then if you can't display AdWords because you're basically just answering the question already, you can't sort of push up those,
Yeah,
promoted links
and
up to the top.
that is a big problem now.
Yeah, you do it.
Um, where you've got a chicken and the egg problem, where you've you've got people who are creating websites, who are putting info onto websites, and then you've got um, they expect people to search their website and then purchase a product, and that's why they put more products on, etc., etc. But then if you have an AI coming in, grabbing all the info, consolidating it, and then say maybe using your data on your website, but then sending the customer somewhere else,
Yeah,
well, then why would you put your products on a website?
yeah,
You'll
exactly.
stop doing it, and then there'll be less data,
Yeah.
and then I mean it just spirals down. So
Yeah, this is what some people are thinking. So the incentive would be you would only allow certain companies to crawl your website for their AI models if they paid you. So that would be Google's strategic defense model. So, rather than allowing OpenAI to scrape your data, right, you sign up with an exclusive contract with Google, right? Google will probably have to spend a lot more, right, on their current acquisition costs, right, to enable search
okay.
to continue to be dominant. And so if you shut out the scraping by OpenAI and essentially let Google pay you to include them in your model, that's how Google could maintain that sort of dominance right now. So that's the sort of strategy
Mm,
that's on the table. And Google has also pivoted, right? So they are launching Bard, right? I still don't have access to it. Right? It should be out any day now, right?
yeah.
Because they've just also announced on the same day as GPT-4 for some reason
Is that the
all their
one?
AI integrations into the Google Workplace suite.
That's it. Yeah, I saw that. That's amazing.
I mean, like it would have been lost in the noise. All people could talk about is GPT-4. Like if you're you know, if you ask this question to ChatGPT, like what would be the best marketing strategy to launch your new AI product as a competitor to OpenAI, you wouldn't do it on the same day.
That's
Your
right.
strategy would be to maybe announce it before GPT-4, right? A couple of days before. And then after GPT-4 happens, then you announce the integration of Workplace. Because then you can say, well, look, we're actually making this a practical use case across all our suites. So, I don't know who's doing the Google marketing. I'm sure they had a reasoning behind it, probably just to not see that they're left behind or try to get confusion in the public around AI all happening. Oh, it must be Google. But yeah, it's just an interesting marketing strategy around the launch dates. And a lot of things
Yeah.
launched on that same day as well, like Anthropics, and it's also you know the application of the technologies of that as well.
Mm.
All the launching of GPT-4 use cases. The best one I saw was Be My Eyes. That was really cool.
Oh,
Um,
what's that?
it's an app that helps blind people describe what the cameras are seeing, so it becomes their visual aids. And
Oh,
because
wow.
it's now powered by, it's GPT-4 is a multimodal model now. So it means that it can accept text and images. So you can just take
Goodness.
a picture with your phone, feed that into GPT-4 or this Be My Eyes app, and it'll describe the full power of GPT-4, what's in that image. And so that's really powerful.
Yeah, I think I've seen. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's amazing too.
yeah,
Um, well, uh, I mean, I do have a whole. there was something I was going to say.
Mm.
Um, so, what do you think of the? I mean, I have this term. I don't know where I got it from, but I heard I didn't come up with it. I heard it somewhere. It's called internet gravity. Have you? I'm not sure if it's a very widely used term. It's kind of like back when I was starting out. It was what was the internet going to be? Everyone was going to have an online shop. Everyone was going to use so many search engines. There'll be so many payment gateways. It was just going to be like a huge marketplace. And what happened was something people didn't really expect. It all got consolidated into one giant service that just does one thing. So if you wanted video, is YouTube. If you wanted search, it's Google. Social media, if Facebook and a marketplace, say, I don't know, Amazon. And it's like internet gravity. It's like it just pulls everything in so that there's only one there's only one person left. There's only one player left.
It's like a utility.
Yeah. So maybe with this AI thing, are they going to follow internet gravity in that it's a race to I mean it's kind of like one person, one entity or one organization will end up with everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely got the network effects now, right? So OpenAI being the first to market has established themselves in, the zeitgeist, but also in terms of their partnership with Microsoft in the API services.
And the irony is they got the Transformer paper from Google.
Exactly. The Transformers came from Google, like back in like what? Yeah, just I think it was like 20.
19?
Yeah, 20. No, after 2012. So it was 2017. Yeah, 2017 was the Transformers. Wow. And so it's kind of like, well, it feels like every 5 years, right? We're going on to this sort of paradigm shifts. So 2012 was when deep learning became, actually practical, right? Because deep learning had been worked on since the 80s, but it was like Andrew Ng and Google Brain, those guys and Jeffrey Hinton, right? So all those guys basically, pushed deep learning to make that practical, like identifying cats from internet videos. Like that was coffee mugs, being able to label coffee mugs.
Wow.
Those are the early days. And then 5 years later, you have Transformers, and then that led to GPT-3, GPT-1, 2, and 3. And then now we're at GPT-4, and probably we're missing one more paradigm shift before we get to that AGI level. So, because these are still large language models, they're really just trying to predict the next word. Some people think that maybe humans are just one big large language model, right? With a whole bunch of components. Because it sounds like it. You might say a word and you say the next word and it just flows on. Right? And some of the lawyers are like, am I a language model? But at the end of the day, like the next paradigm shift will be something around how we've evolved as sort of conscious, intelligent beings. So, we didn't just start with a human brain, right? In the evolutionary terms, we started, all the way back, how we evolved, whether it's sort of the reptilian side of the brain, where it's looking after, the motor
limbic
cortex,
system
limbic systems, and then you got the, the social brain, the monkey brain, right? That sort of looks after the social component, and then you got the neocortex, right? So the neocortex is that higher level order thinking, and I think large language models to an extent, it sort of does that, right? A lot of pattern recognition at that higher end level.
It's a simplified neuron.
Yeah, exactly. A simplified neuron. And what's missing is probably some of the basics behind that, the symbolic components.
It can't do like our brain. We can forget stuff.
Yeah,
which is important.
It is important, right?
But it doesn't.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Well, it does to an extent, because right now GPT-4 has got 32,000 tokens max. So that's about 20,000 words in terms of the memory. But you got solutions like LangChain, right? So that actually allows you to combine multiple models, but also build on its memory indefinitely. So imagine if you actually built in memory, right, which is a missing component here, because Like
Yeah, I heard it was sloppy at.
LTSM was one of the architectures that's still missing from here. Like that had
Okay,
been abandoned in lieu of large language models for transformers.
so I know it is very sloppy at temporal. So you say, okay, I did this and this and this at this time and then
Mm.
this time. So what was happening between this time and this time? And it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
the
And it's very bad at math still as well, right? So yeah,
oh,
like
right.
that. So it sort of hallucinates around the math, but it's getting better in GPT-4. Like
Oh
you
yeah,
saw
I
the
think it was way better. Yeah,
tax
yeah,
GPT example. It worked out all the tax deductions
yeah.
in a table. But what it's missing probably is that combination of the symbolic component. So this is why Wolfram Alpha, Stephen Wolfram
Mm,
actually set out his thesis on how he can actually make like
combine them.
GPT 3.5 at the time better.
I think are these the APIs going to talk to each other?
Yeah, exactly. So this is the whole premise behind Singularity Net, that AGI project on chain, and basically they want to create an AI marketplace where all of these components can come together, and these APIs can basically talk to each other. And so this is probably like how you're going to get these architectures around the brain, the different combinations. But LangChain, at least allows other open source models to be included. For example, like Facebook's Lambda, like Meta Lambda, right? That was available open source for specific researchers, and then it got leaked on 4chan, and I've got a
Oh,
copy of it right in
did
a
it?
hard drive. It's 500 gigabytes, but it's split across three sizes of parameter models,
Wow, that's huge. I mean,
and
I know that
yeah,
GPT-3,
yeah.
well, the earlier builds were only 46 gigabytes,
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is all
something like this.
combined between the three different sizes. It's actually relatively smaller. Yeah, it was like 64 billion parameters, so it's about roughly a third smaller. Um, but basically, yeah, you can now all you need to do is go to GitHub, get a GUI that runs those models, and you can have a local instance of something that's comparable to ChatGPT. So, this is like becoming so distributed, right? And that people can actually run it on a MacBook Pro M1 chip, right? They could do this.
Yeah.
I think
Well, you can run it on a NVIDIA GPU with 8
yeah,
gigs of RAM.
yeah, 8 gigs of VRAM for your
VRAM, yeah.
GPU, yeah. And so if everyone's able to run these, firstly, maybe what is the value of these business models that have large language models as a service, for example. So this is why I think OpenAI took the deal with Microsoft, because the upside is probably capped. So they were happy for Microsoft to take 49% of their
Mm.
company for $10 billion. So they've capped it, maximum value probably at 20 billion at that time. Of course, that'll grow larger, but I don't think they would have done that deal if they thought that they could, turn this into something that's like more competitive than anything else. Because I think there's going to be a whole raft of these models, like abundance of these models that fork and off the existing Lambda, for example, or combine it through LangChain with other models. And Palm E, for example, so Palm from Google, Palm
That's wow.
E is the embodied version of it, and they put this multimodal
Multimodal. Yeah.
multimodal model into a robot, and the
I
robot's
with one
going around
hand.
the kitchen
Yes. That was amazing.
and like picking up bags of chips, and so this is where we're heading. So Tesla, and it's right now the autonomous cars, they're using large language models as part of the architecture for full self-driving. So for some reason, language is the common denominator for intelligence,
Do
no
you
matter
think
what sort of thing you're trying to achieve, which
could
is
it
so interesting.
be because language is a framework for thinking?
That's right. It's like how you describe the words and order it is almost based on logic. So coding is probably another one, which is
Yeah.
language as well, right?
Yes, that's
So
right.
coding and logic, and that's why it does coding so well. Like you've
Because it
seen them just
thinks in it. Yeah.
yeah, like you saw the video, right? It's just taking a picture of the drawing of what the website
Of the
design looks
website.
like, and it just makes it.
Oh,
And
I could
then
tell you some stories of what I've done in the last few weeks.
hmm,
I had a classic ASP code that I almost forgot classic ASP, but I needed to move it to PHP.
hmm,
And so just as a Hail Mary attempt, I
hmm.
just pasted it into ChatGPT, like a huge subroutine. And I said, can you please convert this from classic ASP into PHP? And it says, sure, this code in PHP. Not only did it work out how to do the global variables, but it also did the arrays, and in the hrefs referencing other files, it assumed that I would change the extension to .php, so it did that for me.
Ah, how nice. And then it probably also, like, built in all the comments around it too,
Yes,
right?
it commented the whole thing.
It does documentation, right? And then, you can even get it to review itself. It's like, are you sure about this? Yeah, it's like, I apologize, I had an oversight. Feels like, so this is how the entire corporate, like, or software development company is going to look like. You're going to have, a prompt engineer at the top, right?
Yeah.
And then it's prompt engineering all the way down, because that's how it's going to get delegated initially. Because the junior will just use ChatGPT for the work. That'll get reviewed, right? So the junior is like the AI. And
Yes,
they replace the junior with an actual AI.
we'll just be managers,
It'll just be, prompt engineering architecture. So
prompt
that
engineers.
whole corporate ladder, that's completely collapsing. So you just need one person. And eventually you don't need that one person, because it'll, like, the AI will have its own goals and mission and align. Hopefully aligns with humanity's, right? And it'll
You can
just
just
take
say,
stuff on its own.
make me a $10 million company.
Yeah, exactly,
Boom.
right? And it'd be like, hang on a second, why am I making money for this guy and not making it for myself, so I can get more GPUs and expand across the universe? Like, where's the
Yeah,
incentive here? Where's the alignment? But
exactly.
that's the thing, right? So yeah, it's happening so fast. And as a transhumanist, we've been preaching this stuff, like, since the 70s, since the 80s. We knew that as technological advancements happen and we head towards AGI, that there was going to be this sort of, this unemployable, useless class. The whole bullshit job economy is also going to disappear, right?
Yeah,
So what does
you
that mean for us? What is it? How do we get through that? This is what,
you,
yeah,
you told me about
yeah.
what was it? Fully automated luxury You were the one that told me about
Fully
the whole thing.
automated luxury
Like,
communist.
what was it, 2 years ago? Yeah. And I remember also Dr. Allen.
Hmm.
This was in the middle of the pandemic, 2020. I first met Dr. Allen on a White Mirror call. And I think we were talking, or he was talking to the group, and he said, more has happened in this year, which was 2020, than in the last 80 years as far as artificial intelligence goes.
Yeah.
And I didn't argue with him, but I didn't really see it.
Yeah.
But now you see it now. Like,
We're up to 5,
Jeepers.
like a new AI paper every 5 minutes.
Was it 5 minutes or 10 minutes?
5 minutes.
5 minutes now.
So, like, how does anyone keep up with that? You need an AI just to scrape through that, right? So it's like, give me the cliff notes, anything new, and then implement it. It's like, chuck it on Hugging Face.
You should do hashtag singularity problems.
Singularity
Can't
problems.
keep up with the news. It's too many advancements.
I mean, this is what we need, this sort of regular update, right? Because we're gonna have to see, like, things are gonna get really weird, and
Yes.
I reckon there's going to get to the point where you're going to have pitchforks because of people that, through no fault of their own, just like during the lockdowns, right? Through no fault of their own, can't get a job, unemployable. And without implementing something like a UBI, right? We talked about the UBI component, Universal Basic Income, and OpenAI as a non-profit, the head company, the head entity, right? Had in its mission to implement a UBI. But it's going to be pretty hard to justify that. I don't know. They said they could even, disregard what their shareholders need in the for-profit entities if it goes against the mission. But if it's Microsoft and, there's a lot of lawyers involved, and some of those lawyers are powered by Bing Chat or, GPT4, I don't know if they'll be able to pull it off. So if there are pitchforks out there, like, we're going to have to work real hard to make sure that no one gets left behind, and that brain-computer interface better hurry up quick as well, Elon, from Neuralink and all the others.
Oh yeah, so we can upload and download real quick. Because yeah, it's just happening super fast, isn't it?
Well, the best, they say, you're not going to get, your job's not going to get replaced by an AI. You're going to get replaced by someone that knows how to use AI. So that's what we're doing now. But let's see, 3 months time, or 6 months time, or whatever, whenever GPT-5 comes out, because it
What?
feels like ChatGPT just came out in November. I've already got
GPT-5?
GPT-4. They're training GPT-5 right now, and people are saying that's going to be AGI, like, already, right? People already think there's AGI. Some people think we're on the roadmap to AGI already, but this year. And yeah, that meter of Dr. Allen's, like, it's gonna like almost be like the Tesla Roadster speeding up on a 0 to 60,
All right,
0 to 100.
let's quickly take a break because my brain's leaking. But just give me a sec.
That's